This is a child's face, around 10 years old, long intersecting cuts carved across the cheeks, slicing through the muscles that control the lips and nose, precise sawing marks around the eye sockets and along the jawline. Then, the skull was cracked open, the brain was removed. This happened 850,000 years ago, in a cave in northern Spain, and this child wasn't the only one. The Sierra de Atapuerca is a limestone ridge in northern Spain. In the early 1900s, workers cut a trench through the hillside for a mine railway, roughly 500 meters long. That trench sliced clean through a series of ancient caves, exposing layer after layer of sediment packed with bones and stone tools. A geological archive that had been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years, cracked open by accident. One of those caves is called GRAN DOLINA, and roughly 18 meters down through its deposit sits a level known as TD6. In 1994, a team led by archaeologists opened a small test pit in TD6, just 7 square meters. They were surveying, checking whether the level was worth a proper excavation. And what they pulled out of that tiny patch of ground became the oldest evidence of cannibalism ever found in Europe. But the bones didn't just show that it happened, they showed who it happened to. And that's where this story gets much darker. 92 bone fragments from at least 6 individuals, cranial pieces, ribs, vertebrae, hand bones, foot bones. Every category of butchery you can identify on ancient bone was present. Cut marks from stone tools where flesh had been sliced away. Percussion impacts where bones were smashed open for marrow. Conchoidal fractures from deliberate breakage while the bone was still fresh. The team compared the human bones to the animal bones from the same layer. Deer, horses, bison, rhinoceros. The processing was identical. Same tools, same technique, same discard pattern. Human remains mixed in with animal remains on what appeared to be a living floor. This is over 800,000 years old, the oldest confirmed cannibalism in Europe. But here's what stopped the researchers. When they built a profile of who the victims were, a pattern emerged that nobody expected. 75% of them were children and adolescents. Not the old, not the sick, no adults who could fight back. Children specifically. Let's go back to that child's face. Specimen ATD6-69, around 10 to 11 years old based on dental development. The partial face and upper jaw were recovered with some of the densest cut marks in the entire assemblage. This isn't random damage. Taphonomist Yolanda Fernandez-Halvo mapped every mark. Somebody was methodically removing the soft tissue from this child's face, skinning it. Then they fractured the skull and accessed the brain. And the tools they used to do this? Mode 1. Core and flake. The most basic stone technology in the human record. Simple flakes chipped off a rock. But the processing sequence, the order of cuts, the targeting of specific muscle attachments, the knowledge of where to strike for marrow, that was anything but simple. The species responsible for this has a name. Homo antecessor, Latin for pioneer or early settler, named in 1997, 3 years after the first bones came out of TD6. And here's where it gets strange. That same child, a TD6-69, whose face was carved apart, the bone structure underneath showed something that stunned the team. A completely modern mid-face, the angle of the cheekbones, the shape around the nose, the structure of the eye sockets. It looked like us. Like a modern human face, 850,000 years before modern humans existed. At the time, the researchers proposed Homo antecessor might be the last common ancestor of both Neanderthals and our own species, the face that connected everything in human evolution, and someone sliced it off a 10-year-old and ate what was underneath. But I need to be honest with you, this is the detail from this whole story I can't get past. We're not talking about some desperate act of starvation. The precision tells you this wasn't panicked. It was practiced, like they'd done it before. And the evidence says they had plenty of other options. The aurora stratum, the layer where the human bones were found, is packed with a rich and diverse faunal assemblage. Rhinoceros, bison, horses, giant deer. This wasn't some frozen wasteland where people were starving. The Atapuerca Valley was teeming with large game. The animal bones in the same deposit prove these people were hunting successfully. So if they had good food, big animals, reliable hunting, why eat children? In 2012, researchers published an analysis comparing the GRAN DOLINA victim profile to known patterns of cannibalism across species, and their conclusion was striking. The age discrimination, dominated by the young and defenseless, doesn't match most documented human cannibalism cases. It matches chimpanzee intergroup aggression. Chimpanzee groups raid neighboring territories. They target infants and juveniles specifically. They kill them. Sometimes they eat them. It's not about hunger. It's about eliminating future competition from a rival group. The researchers argued that's exactly what happened at TD6. A group used this cave periodically. When they encountered members of a rival group, probably while ranging through overlapping territory, they killed the most vulnerable and brought the bodies back, not as a ritual, not as a last resort, as strategy. And it probably wasn't a one-time event. The Aurora stratum, originally described as a single layer, turned out to be a compressed package of at least 6 distinct sublayers, each one thin, some less than 10 centimeters, each containing stone tools and bone. The cave shows evidence of cannibalism span across multiple levels. This cave didn't see one afternoon of victims. It saw repeated visits, different victims, but the same behavior happening again and again over what could be decades or longer. The floor of GRAN DOLINA absorbed this pattern like a record nobody was meant to read. In 2025, excavators at GRAN DOLINA pulled something new out of the Aurora stratum, a cervical vertebra from a young child. The neck bone had precise cut marks that researchers interpreted as deliberate decapitation. Co-director Palmyra Saladier described it as particularly striking. The child had been processed, in her words, like any other prey. That word, prey, not victim, not casualty, prey, because that's what every bone in this assemblage shows. The same cuts on a child's neck that you'd find on a deer, the same hammer strikes on a child's skull that you'd use to crack a horse femur. Even their teeth showed impact damage at the junction between root and crown, the kind that comes from someone smashing through jaw and bone to get at everything inside. And then, in 2020, a team used something called enamel proteomics, extracting ancient proteins from tooth enamel, which survives hundreds of thousands of years longer than DNA, to finally place Homo antecessor on the evolutionary tree. The result was unexpected. They're not our direct ancestor. They're a close sister lineage, a branch that split off near the point where Neanderthals, Denisovans, and modern humans all diverged from each other. Remember that child's face from the beginning, a TD6-69, the most modern-looking face in the entire fossil record at that time, more like us than anything else alive 850,000 years ago, belonged to a species that was systematically butchered and eaten by its own kind. The face that looked most like ours was carved off a child with a stone flake. But here's what gets me about this story. I've covered a lot of dark history on this channel over the last few videos. We've talked about the Homo naledi carrying their dead into impossible cave systems. We've talked about the Pit of Bones, where 29 people were thrown down a 13-meter shaft 430,000 years ago. But this story sits differently. A fun fact about all of this is that our Pit of Bones video is in the same mountain, the same ridge of limestone in northern Spain as the GRAN DOLINA. One cave holds the oldest cannibalism in Europe, the other holds what might be the earliest funeral behaviour ever recorded. But when you zoom out of all of this, cannibalism happened so many times in history. Homo antecessor was doing this 850,000 years ago. We have proof that the Neanderthals were doing it 45,000 years ago, and Homo sapiens, which is us, were doing it at Guff's Cave in England as recent as 15,000 years ago. We found skull cups, a proof of defleshing and marrow extraction. 3 different species, all spanning over hundreds of thousands of years apart, the same behaviour, eating their own species. That's not a coincidence. That's something embedded so deep in human lineage that it survived every evolutionary split, every ice age, every extinction. Whatever this is, it didn't start at GRAN DOLINA, and it didn't end there either. GRAN DOLINA is still being excavated. That original test pit was 7 square meters. The full TD6 exposure covers over 80. Since 1994, the fragment count has grown from 92 to over 170. The minimum number of individuals keeps climbing. Every summer, up to 300 researchers descend on Atapuerca, and every season the aurora stratum gives up more. Here's what stays with me. 850,000 years ago, no language that we'd recognize, no art, no burial traditions, stone tools so basic they're classified as the simplest technology in the human record, and yet the butchery on those children is as precise and efficient as anything we see at sites hundreds of thousands of years later. Whatever this behaviour was, it was already ancient when the first Neanderthal was born. By the way guys, my name's Joe, this is Buried Earth. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on our next upload. And on screen right now, 2 videos we think you're gonna absolutely